to wear or block duration.
Thank you. Yes, this again acknowledge Christina and Linda, who did almost all the work. I just got to do the statistics and pontificate. So again, so what we want to do is look at a bit more at the objectives and the background to the study, why we thought it was a worthwhile study to do before going on to the how we did it and what we found. So as we've been clearly done today, as I say, claw horn lesions are the most common reason for lameness in cattle. And effective treatment for claw horn lesions, blocks, I think, are absolutely vital. My approach with using blocks is to say that a cow needs a block every single time unless I can see a good reason why it shouldn't have it. So it's rather than thinking, should it have a block, the answer really is it should have a block unless I can say, well, the reason why, there's a reason for not using it. So we're talking about trimming and elevating it with the trimming, but the block as well gives elevation and significantly improves, particularly in early cases, the response to treatment. But like a lot of the things that are involved with lameness, we've got a multitude of different products that are available. We've got wooden blocks, we've got rubber blocks, we've got foam blocks, we've got plastic shoes. What's the information out there for the vet and for the farmer on what works best? And there's only been a few studies comparing different hoof blocks and their longevity, and most of those are in German, which fortunately Christina reads a lot better than I do. It's the difficulty of translating German when they put all the words together, so you have to get 7 words from the dictionary just to identify one phrase in a German paper. So, but there's even less data on study for pastoral-based systems, and obviously our animals are walking long distances. Even if they are kept in a paddock near the shed, it's often a lot more distance than the average cow be walking in a house system. So what we were interested in was, do walking distances influence block wear and longevity? So as I said, we've got our New Zealand dairy system. We've got our cows that are feeding themselves, so they have to go to where the grass is grown, and when they finish eating the grass in one area, they have to then go to a different paddock, so you can get really quite big variations in the distance of a cow that a cow is walking to and from the paddocks. The standard management for lame cows is limits the walking. So rather than the cows being milked twice a day, they get milked once a day, usually in the morning, and the rest of the day they spend in a paddock that's near the shed, near the milking parlour. So you're limiting the 2 key things that cause lameness in dairy cows in New Zealand: the long distances walked and the amount of time spent standing on concrete. So what we were looking at here is how does the block impact on that when that's what your standard management is. So we took 3 commercial hoof blocks and 1 farm and looked at longevity, walking distances and wear, and we're going to focus on the longevity and the walking distances for this one. And I'm going to come to Tokyo to hopefully hear Christina talk about the wear. So, fortnightly lameness visits, 600 cow spring calving dairy farm, all cows that were abnormal motion score presented for examination. So we had 68 lame cows over the period of the study. They were Friesian and Friesian cross Jersey. The herd is a mixture of Friesian and Friesian cross Jerseys. The cows that are included have to have only a unilateral hind limb lameness, and everything got a block, so there needed to be no reasons why that particular animal wasn't able to have a block on the apparently non-lame claw. So these are our 3 blocks that we use. We've got the cow slip, which is the plastic shoe, which is the most popular one in New Zealand, the most commonly used product. Then there's the wooden block, the Bovi Bond, and the third one is a Kiwi invention, which is the foam block. It's a much cheaper and probably less robust than the other 2. So the evidence even from the manufacturers is that it doesn't stay on as long. But obviously the advantages are that not only is it cheaper, but it's less likely to do damage to the other claw, and also it's much easier to take off. So we didn't identify which block the cow needed. We just randomly allocated them using a randomized table to treatment with those particular blocks. So we identified the cows with a leg band. The blocks were checked daily by the farmer, and he recorded the day of loss of each of the blocks. The cows were visited on 2 occasions, day 14 and day 28. Then we re-evaluated the lesions. Measurements of block height were taken. On day 28, we removed the blocks unless there was evidence from the lesions that the cow needed further elevation of the diseased claw to carry on the improvement in the treatment. We kept individual cow records of the group, the allocated paddocks, how often they were milked, and using the farm map and GPS software, some very keen, enthusiastic vet students calculated the individual distances walked on the tracks. We didn't count the distance that the cows were walking in the paddock, but we worked from the amount of time, the distance they walked on block application to loss or removal of the block. So the block longevity, the red is the plastic cow slip, the blue is the wooden one, and the walkies is the green one. And you can see we got significant differences in longevity between the groups. The little dashes at the end, those are the days that the cows that had the blocks on day 28, on our day 28 examination, the day that they got removed. So you can see that the cow slip has a significantly lower loss rate than either the Bovibond or the walkies. And I was quite surprised at how much loss rate there was for the wooden blocks, that their daily odds of loss were 4.2 times higher for the wooden blocks. And that's not due to inexperience, because the wooden block is the one that Christina is most commonly used to using. So she put all the blocks on, so she was used to using the wooden block. And I think she was quite surprised at how much the loss rate was too. The walkies, I was surprised on how long it lasted. How many, we actually ended up with 2 that lasted 4 weeks. So I wasn't surprised that the loss rate for the walkies was 8 times that of the cow slip. That is part of the product, but I was surprised at how many animals that we had still 21 days afterwards still had a walkies on. So what about the walking distances that the cows were walking? And the cows were walking around 0.3 kilometres a day. And there's a bit of variation, but you can see for each of the 3 blocks, because of the system the cows were put on when they were lame, until the farmer was happy that they were no longer lame. When he put them back out into the main cow herd, they were walking on average the same. So there wasn't any difference in the walking distance between the groups. Obviously, because the cow slips lasted longer, there was a significantly increased distance that the cows were walked. So they ended up walking about 9 kilometres on average. The Bovibond lasted about 6 kilometres, and the walkies about 4.5 kilometres. But you can see that the range of longevity was similar across all the groups. We did lose 1 Bovibond within 100 metres of it being put on. But on average, the cow slips are 26 days, 18 days for the Bovibond and 15 days for the walkie. So all of them, if we're looking at a system where we're going back to lame cows and checking them 2 weeks later, I think this works very well for any of those blocks. And actually, I think that the rechecking was an extremely valuable part of the treatment process, let alone the study. And the farmer was very happy with the results. We had he'd been a client of one of our vets for 8-9 years, and she hadn't been able to persuade him to use blocks. He did this one study, and now he's a convert to using blocks. So you can see the difference in distances walked and the box plots, and the walkies being much lower, but a big range. So the average longevity in the days walked, again, very closely related And you can see that the medial claw and the lateral claw, there wasn't any difference. So we mostly lateral claws were the lame lesions. We did have the toe ulcers we talked about earlier, which were the majority where we had a blocked lateral claw. So the height reduction was greatest for the wooden block, followed by the foam block, and the plastic shoe showed the least wear despite the fact that, that it walked the longest distance. The wear was greatest in the first 14 days, and then days 15 to 28 the wear reduced. We have got data on multiple points in each of the blocks, because obviously wear is not solely important because you're losing the protection, but also because if you're wearing unevenly, then the cow's going to bear weight unevenly. So that's currently being analysed at the moment. So I think our conclusions is that the plastic shoe stayed on for a long period. It survived really quite long distances that the cows walked, because most of the cows were back in the main herd by the time they had their 28-day examination. And so much lower odds of being lost and less wear. So I think in our system, the longevity of the plastic shoe really suits the pastoral boy system, where you're wanting the cows to be able to go back out and walk good long distances. There is the question, though, if half of the shoes have to be cut off. Roger Blowy's data showed that the longevity was 96 days, which is far longer than you want. And obviously the studies, the difficulty is removing the block when it's been on for too long. The wooden blocks perform better than the foam blocks with regard to longevity, but I think if I was wanting a block to last long enough for the 14 days, I would use the walkies. It's much cheaper and it's very quick and easy to put on. So, disadvantage of the plastic shoe, hard to remove, but it's unlikely to be lost. But it's also likely to do its job for the 28 days, which most of our cows needed. And I think, as I said, Christina was recommending always removing the block after 28 days, trim the claw, and then reapply another block. Don't just keep the block on. Thanks very much.